Hello, it's Mary from The Girl, a Book, and a Mom. I'm the mom, clearly. So I'm a little late, but it's your January reads. Everything I read in the month of January. To start out, the girl got a Christmas present from her beloved Aunt Martha. Thanks, Martha. And it was this book, The Greenglass House, which, wow. I was reading a different book, which I'll talk about in a minute, that was really hard to take, and I needed something light and fluffy, so I thought, oh, I'll pick this book up. Yeah, this book is not light and fluffy, but it's really, really good. The girl is reading it right now. She's almost done. So excited for her to hit the twist so that we can talk about it. But, she's getting there. She's getting there. I haven't read the book that she asked me to read either. Huh. So there. So Greenglass House is about this boy Milo who lives in a smuggler's inn called the Greenglass House. And he's getting ready for Christmas break and people start showing up and there's some very interesting stuff afoot. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But there's a heck of a twist and it's super, super good. I rated this one a 5 out of 5. All right. Now, next I read The Murder at Archley Manor. And I'll put it up here. And I read this to cover the prompt because I'm doing the Booklist Queens reading challenge for 2021. And it covers my prompt for set in the 1920s. So it's set in the 1920s, and it's this girl whose dad got remarried, and she doesn't quite get on with her stepmother. So, yeah, she's trying to strike it out on her own and not having a whole lot of luck. And she gets invited to a house party with one of her friends, and oh my, there's a murder and you're not actually sure who does it. And then at the end, the person you think did it is not actually who did it, but at least how it was for me. But I read that one on my Kindle and it was super good. I really enjoyed it. It was light and fluffy. It was the light fluffy that I was looking for earlier. That one's probably like a 3.5 out of 5. The next book on the list is The House of Gucci, because oh my gosh, who doesn't love fashion? Even though, yeah, I'm not gonna fit into Gucci, not anytime soon. I'd have to lose like 3/4 of my body size, but that's okay. I can still enjoy watching the fashion shows and reading Vogue. But on the book list challenge was a book being made into a movie. Now, this book is being made into a movie that's supposed to come out in November. Anyway, it stars Lady Gaga as Patrizia Gucci? Patrizia Reggiani, who is Maurizio Gucci's ex-wife. And Maurizio Gucci is being played by Adam Driver, and I hear that Al Pacino is going to be in it. Anyway, I'm super excited for the movie because this is kind of a big book. Okay, not a huge book, but big enough. And it's about the Gucci fashion brand and Guccio Gucci, who started it, and then his 3 sons, and then their children, and oh my golly, like vendettas, and it opens with Maurizio's murder, and oh, it was drama filled, action packed. I can't wait to see the movie. Yeah, so good. Like really, really, really enjoyed it. And I think this is totally apropos. It's a sensational story of murder, madness, glamour, and greed. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, I'm loving this book. This was a 5 out of 5 also. Hooray, Gucci. it was a good month for books. Okay, the next book I read, I have to turn my page sideways because, okay, I have a little bullet journal and I've got them all written here. Oh, I didn't color these in, but I read them. The next book I read is A Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder. And this was just, for fun. And honestly, it was very similar to the murder at Archley Manor in that a young lady solved the crime, but yeah, it was another light, fluffy book. I enjoyed it. This one is a story of a woman whose husband died in the bed of his lover at a house party at their house. When her husband died, all sorts of hell broke loose, basically, that she was considered the dowager countess, even though I think she was 27. I'm not sure. Anyway, so she lives then with her dead husband's brother and his wife, and they keep trying to get her money from her. So she moves. Well, I should say it's her money that her dad had like set aside just for her, because the estate, everything went to the dead husband's brother. So like they do, because of course she got married because she was wealthy and he had a title. So, as you do. Um, so anyway, I'm sorry if I'm not making a whole lot of sense, but so she rents a home in London and um yeah, and she solves a crime and it's very exciting. So yeah, another 3-star one, and I will definitely read the sequel on that one because it was fun and it was romancy, but not smutty, just romancy and fun, and took very little time to read. Okay, then for the first book that I read in the car, back and forth to work, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, was When We Were Mermaids. And this is the story of a emergency room doctor who believes that her sister died in a terrorist attack on a train in France 15 years earlier. And then one night she's in between patients, I guess. She's grabbing a cup of coffee in the break room and discovers that her sister actually isn't dead because there's a report on a fire in New Zealand. And she looks up and she's watching the news, and right behind the newscaster is her sister. So it's a wonderful book. It talks about her childhood with her sister and the troubles that evolved and what happened to the boy that they sort of adopted as a family. And it delves into relationships between the sisters and between the parents and the children, and tragedies that happened, and how the sisters have rebuilt their lives, and the importance of love. So it was really good. I believe I rated that a 5, and I did rate it a 5. I just had to quick check Goodreads. Apparently, this was a month of fantastic books. But yes, I really enjoyed When We Were Mermaids. I may have driven around a couple times just to finish the book in the car. Okay, the next book I read, also by Kindle, was The Night Watchman. And this covers the prompt Own Voices because it was written by Louise Erdich about the Cherokee tribe, a tribe of Native Americans in Minnesota, and it's called The Night Watchman. Did I say that right? But anyway, so it follows this girl whose sister has gone missing in Minneapolis, and she goes and looks for her sister, and yeah, and just it follows her looking for her sister, except she's not the main character. The night watchman is the main character, and his name is Thomas, and he works at a jewel plant that I'm not sure what they cut holes in little tiny jewels for like drilling or something like that. But he's the night watchman at this plant, and there's some magical realism in this. But anyway, so you find out about, I don't know, a third of the way through the book that he's fighting some legislation to terminate the contract with the native peoples. The government is trying to terminate the contract. And I think that's all I can say about it because I don't want to give any spoilers, and I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it a three stars. I think the best comment I've heard to describe it is that my sister said that you get to know every single character really in depth, which you did, which made it very confusing to me to understand who was the main character. And it just wasn't for me. So it was good. I understand why people would think it was great. For me, we'll give it a 3-star. So they're not all 5-star this month. There's a 3-star, a couple 3 stars. The next book I read was The Summer of Chasing Dreams. This covers the buzzword challenge. The month was the word dream in the title. And this was a super fun, just happy little story I read on my Kindle about this girl whose mom has died. Not recently. I mean, she's not in mourning. But she's like cleaning out her mom's house, and her mom apparently had her very young, like 18, 19. Heck, I think 25 might be a little young to have a kid, because, but anyway, so she had the girl at 18 or 19. And so the girl's cleaning out the inside of the house that she's getting ready to decide if she wants to sell it or not. And she finds this box full of all these dreams that her mother had, that she had packed up in a little box on little pieces of paper. And she packed it up in the box and put it in the attic when the girl was born. And I apologize that I cannot remember her name. So anyway, so the girl finds this list, and she's gotten quite an inheritance from the mom. So she decides, okay, I'm going to go on this trip around the world and get as many of these as I can do done. And so she signs up with this agency, this like travel agency, to book all these experiences, things like seeing whales and seeing the northern lights and singing on top of the Eiffel Tower and like that. And so she signs up, and she, through an accident of fate, she ends up getting paired with this guy named Thor. Yeah, Thor. Wouldn't mind getting paired with a guy named Thor for a little bit, and traveling, and not having a pandemic. Oh, heaven. But anyway, so she and Thor didn't exactly hit it off to start, but romance blossoms. And it was just an enjoyable book to read, where she's traveling around, crossing things off her mother's list, and she meets her father, and oh, it was good. It was good. There was another, oh, looks like I gave it another 5 stars. If you're looking for a light-hearted romance, this is it. I believe I stayed up while the girl was asleep, huddled with my Kindle, reading it because it hit the spot. It was exactly what I needed. Because once I had finished When We Were Mermaids, I started reading the book Caste, which I'll put up here, which is part of my 2021 goals, is to read books that highlight the African American experience, or that I can learn to understand better. My sister and I have dubbed it the woke year for me, and yes, so this is woke Mary talking. But so I read Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, and it was a fascinating book comparing Indian caste systems, Nazi Germany, and the African American experience in the United States. And it was powerful. It was eye-opening. Like, I'm okay, we already know I am not great at history. Um, but I had no idea. I'll be honest. I knew that the slave experience in Gone with the Wind was not actually reality, that it wasn't so happy you're part of the family. But I had no idea exactly how bad it was. And I certainly had no idea how terrible the Jim Crow South was, or most of the awfulness of it. This was clearly a 5-star book. It was eye-opening. It was thought-provoking. It made me sad. It made me physically ill, because some parts are really hard to read. It made me angry. It made me cry. It made me a little embarrassed. It was just a very, very powerful book, and I recommend it heartily. That if you're trying to understand race relations in the United States, this is the book to read, and it's hard to read. That's why I needed Summer of Chasing My Dreams a little bit. But I'm really glad I read it, and yeah, it was eye-opening that at some points Nazi Germany changed the laws to be more lenient because they felt that the laws were too stringent on Black people. So that was disconcerting. But one of the things that I liked very much about it is it wasn't an opinion piece. It wasn't like a rant, like, "Arr!" Which, after reading this book, I understand why there are opinion books and ranting books. But there was a lot of fact, a lot of data, and I'm a data person. Yeah, so definitely a 5-star book. Huge 5-star book. Probably the most important book I've read all year. Um, Probably the most important book I've read, including last year. Okay, so then I have my next physical book, and it's Picnic at Hanging Rock. And whoa, I am not one to read scary books. This is a spooky book, a creepy book, a deliciously creepy book. And I wholeheartedly recommend this one too. Oh, another 5-star book. It has been a heck of a month. But this book covers the prompt set in Australia. And it was written in the 60s, 1960s, about an event that happened in the 1900s. And it's the story of this boarding school for girls where on Valentine's Day, 1900, they go to have a picnic at a volcanic rock formation called Hanging Rock. And four of the girls wander off to go get a closer look at the rock. And one of the girls comes back hysterical, unable to tell anything that happened. The math teacher disappears, and the three girls and the math teacher are gone. Like they can't find them. And oh, it's so good. It's like deliciously creepy. It like the experience at Hanging Rock radiates out and affects a boy and a coachman who are also picnicking at Hanging Rock there when the girls disappear. It affects the boarding school and people in the boarding school. And it's not so much about the girls and the math teacher, although it sort of is, but I kind of feel like that's a lower plot point, as how this experience changed the rest of everybody and just circling out. And I can tell you that if you get this copy, the Penguin Classics, do not read the forward. Like this little bit is the forward. Don't read that until after you read this, because there's some spoilers, explanations that are far more exciting to leave it till the end. Another thing, and this is part of the whole deliciously creepy bit, is there's a list of characters in the book, and then after the list of characters, it says, and many others who do not appear in this book, which is like, ooh. And then, whether Picnic at Hanging Rock is fact or fiction, my readers must decide for themselves, as the fateful picnic took place in the year 1900, and all the characters who appear in this book are long since dead, it hardly seems important. And when Joanne Lindsay was asked whether these were real people or not, she always got really angry and wouldn't answer the question. So, ooh, did this happen? What happened to the girls? None of their remains were found. What happened? Well, read the book. Okay, and finally, the final book I read was called The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters. And this is another book about mom's dead. So mom dies of cancer, and she's left her three daughters an itinerary to go to India because they're Asian Indians and living in London. Well, the mom lives in London, and she instructs her three daughters to make a pilgrimage to India and what sites they should see and what they should do at these sites. And it's really a story about sisters and coming together. And yeah, it was good. It was I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, it's about these girls, and they go to India and they're following their mom's directions, but there's the sisterly tension, and I have three sisters, so tensions happen, and everybody's going their own way, and it's wonderful because yeah, it's just a wonderful book. I'm not gonna tell you anything else. So 4 stars for that one. That's what I've read this month. I have a couple things I'm didn't finish, so we'll get to those for the February wrap up. The questions I have for you are, what kind of videos would you like to see other than more videos of the girl, which we're working on it. But do you want to see vlogs? Do you want to know what's on my TBR? I don't know. What are you reading? What do you recommend I should read? Do you have books I should read to become more woke? Do you have just really good book recommendations? Because I'm always open for it. Anyway, those are my books. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books this month, and 3 of them, only 3 were actual books, physical books. I don't know what you call them, books. 2 of them were audiobooks, and that would leave 5 on the Kindle. Yeah. So what are you reading? Let me know. Have a great day. Happy reading.